2 weeks notice, and Pereira, one of the few guys who says, I will defend my championship. Yeah, I had broken toes. I fought with broken toes at UFC 300, whatever. Still healing. It's all right. I was fat. I was traveling around doing things. Jiri Prochazka, on the other hand, man, this might be a massive opportunity for him to reclaim his gold title right here. They say after he lost his bout, after he lost his last bout, he went straight into training mode, right? So he might be a little bit more fresh, a little bit more ready. But either way, on 2 weeks notice, the big question that I have for you is, who is a little bit of a scarier opponent to prepare for on 2 weeks notice? Is it Jiri, who isn't quite a fundamental artist? He's more of a perfect storm, quote unquote. Or is it Pereira, who has years and years of kickboxing experience and arguably just sticks to the most fundamental basics that you can in striking? What do you think?
Man, Derick, I feel like that's a very hard question because they're both difficult to prepare for in each way. Like on the one hand, you have Pereira, who power of God. Like this dude has a one-touch power, can knock you out, stays in his lane, but does his lane very effectively. But then you have Prochazka on the other end, who's a wild man, who's always evolving his game, who's always throwing stuff at weird angles. Off the top, I would instantly say Prochazka has to be the harder guy to prepare for. But at the same time, both these guys have fought each other. So I feel like Prochazka has a little bit mental, not lapse, but tentativeness, if you will, going into this fight and trying to find a way to avoid what Pereira does so well. And that being said, that's hard to do it all in its own.
Very difficult to do on either side, no matter what the coin that you flip is. But we got to take a look at these opening odds. -135 was the open for Alex Pereira, +115 comeback for the former champion Prochazka. If I take a quick, brief look, AJ, because we're going to go back and forth on this big screen right here, let me go ahead and pull up the live odd that we have. Live odd that we have on this fight is currently tracking -150 in favor of Pereira, +125 for Jiri. So the odds makers, they're definitely saying if there is money to be had here, it's probably on the Pereira side. And I think it's just because look at what have you done for me lately, right? Jiri is a guy who can never be counted out, and he was arguably winning a lot of exchanges in the original fight, but he got caught. And that's the hard part against Pereira, is that there's always the chance of him getting caught. But this is the real question that I have, man. Shamanic demons and ghosts and entities have arguably entered the chat right here, AJ, and we definitely need to talk about it before we actually break down where the money is going. Because if this is an unfair fight right here, if we got like 2-on-1, just like lo and behold, it needs to be discussed. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna kind of set the table for us really quickly. In an interview today with Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour, Jiri shares that he believes Pereira is using magic and shamanic influences to help him win fights. He asks him not to use magic in his fight and approach it man-to-man with no spiritual aids. All right, AJ, this is a first. This is why we love Jiri, right? But just give me a quick take before we jump into a video.
This is Jiri. I mean, I'm not surprised that he thinks that kind of stuff is going on and that he thinks it can help him and aid him, or well, help and aid his opponent. I'm kind of surprised on the side of Jiri that he's not tapping into his ancient ancestors and trying to get some backup to go in there as well. You never ask a man to back down. Hey, come and fight one-on-one. Like, hey, I'm gonna bring my homies. We're gonna meet up. That's the fairest way to get this going, I feel like.
Everybody knows he's working with some shamanics, with some shamans.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody knows this. I didn't know this here, AJ, but we're just going to take Jiri's word. Everybody knows Pereira, he does the Native American, Brazilian Poatan stuff, right? That's not a Portuguese word, I don't think. I think it's native, right? So
I believe too, but I believe in the best performance, in the human performance right here, right now, without no magic, but I believe in a clear way. And I will do that. I want to win by that way.
He has like some language barriers with Jiri that makes it a little more convoluted, right? But I think he's just simply saying, hey, listen, man, leave the shamanic spirits at home. Let's square up man to man. The same way they say, hey, drop the weapons, brother. What's up? Let's get it. Same situation right here. So Jiri definitely believes this. He's doubled down on it, actually. How do you think this influences the fight?
I mean, it could influence the fight. Don't get me wrong. If you're going in there and you're thinking there's some sort of mystical power that is aiding this guy's advance, you're kind of going to go in there at least somewhat a little more alert or a little more attentive or whatever the case is, right? The guard's going to be up, the walls are going to be high. But at the same point, this kind of seems, and don't want to get religious over here, but this seems like if just somebody was praying to whatever God you have to support you and make your own progress more smooth, right? It's the same kind of situation. Like Jiri's saying that Alex has just these spirits behind him. How is that not the same as just somebody praying? I don't really see this being a big thing. The one thing, Derick, and I hope you have it, man, is Pereira's reply to this.
Yeah.
Pereira doubles down himself. He goes, yeah, I do. I do have spirits going for me. And if you don't, you should.
So his response, he says, everybody has their own spirits. We're not only made of flesh and bone. I found mine. If he didn't find his, or if he doesn't believe, hey, that ain't my fault. So yeah, he's basically like, yeah, spirit, shaman, yeah, totally. What are you talking about? You already know what the deal is. So folks, listen, that's that's something that you definitely got to consider. I just think it's funny to see because these are two of the most interesting characters that we have in the UFC. But at the end of the day, a character, as we've seen with Colby Covington, does not win a fight. So let's actually break down the X's and O's right here. Minus 120 is the TKO prop for Alex Pereira. I'm interested what you think of that TKO prop plus 210 for Jiri Prochazka. Short notice fight, 5 rounds right here. And if he got in his bag the same way that he did in the last fight, man, we could have saw a Jiri Prochazka TKO against Pereira. He just happened to get caught when he shot in for the takedown. I think it was the elbows to the temple right there, man. So what are your thoughts on the plus 210 TKO for Prochazka? Is that immense value right there, or are you seeing something different?
No, I think it is immense value, Derek, because if you go back and you watch that first fight, Prochazka was having his moments, man. Pereira was having a hard time reading the shots that were coming, and Prochazka was tagging him up. So I definitely think there's a way in which Prochazka can stay safe, avoid the big bombs, avoid the leg kicks, avoid the pressure, avoid the big bombs, and actually get to work with his unorthodox style that he has. Because at the same point, man, Prochazka has power too. He can put you to sleep. I'm a little surprised to see it at plus 210. I was thinking more of like a plus 150, especially against Pereira. And don't get me wrong, I agree with the minus 120 on the Pereira side. I just think that Prochazka should have been a little closer to even money.
Yeah, and I think especially taking this fight on short notice right here, and given the fact that Jiri Prochazka legitimately doubled down when they asked him, hey, like, would you do anything different? He's like, I watched the fight multiple times. I wouldn't do anything different. I was like, bro, you got your legs chewed apart. He's like, of course, I'll watch a couple leg kicks, right? But you got your legs chewed apart. This is a man who is just okay with walking into damage. And we're going to talk about another fighter like that very shortly here. But a man who's okay taking one to give one, believing that his is going to overcome theirs. And I think that's the inherent flaw right here, man. If you take a look in the Rakic fight, man, that fight was lost for Jiri until it wasn't. And that's the beauty of immense heart and that kind of samurai spirit. That's kind of Bushido code that he talks about, right? So I think that when you're entering this fight, if Prochazka doesn't want to do anything different and Alex Pereira doesn't particularly do anything different, the short notice, I think, plays a major factor, which leaves a big question mark around this fight. This is where you go with your gut right here, folks, because if you're going to bet on the fight, who doesn't want to throw a little action on the main event? You have to make a choice. And AJ, we got to make a choice. But before we make that choice, I just want to know, do you find more value in picking a winner of this fight, or do you see a little bit of value when we pop up the big screen again and we take a look at the fight? The over is 1.5 rounds, minus 170 for the over, plus 140 for the under. Are we finding more value betting rounds, or are we finding more value betting winners?
Especially short notice, Derek, and at 1.5, I think there's a lot more value in that over, right? Minus 170, I feel like that's going to hit a lot more frequently, if you will. Because, yeah, there can be finishes. There can be things that go on. And their last fight, ended round 2? And I forget what part of round 2. So I can see why it's only 1.5. There's going to be a very fast start right here. But picking who's going to be that deciding factor in a short notice fight makes me like the over a lot better.
It makes me even wonder, too, because it's a short notice fight, because they've already seen each other, will they be more tentative, man? It's not the first go around, so you don't quite have the same confidence. Even Pereira coming off the knockout, I don't imagine he's going to, I'm going to walk you down and just knock you out. He knows the danger coming back at him now. So I think that leaves for a little bit of hesitation on both ends. But to kind of round all of this out right here, if this fight gets extended, man, I don't know if you could trust either one of these fighters. We know Prochazka has gone the 5 rounds, and he's been able to be all heart, all cardio over 5 rounds, so you kind of want to lead Jiri. This is going to be the final question, then we'll jump up out of here, man. A lot of people are saying this is the moment. If you're going to bet on Jiri Prochazka, this is the best opportunity that you have to do it against Pereira. If they trilogy, might be a different story on a full camp. Our picks are in, though, AJ, and we have a consensus pick, and it's not Jiri Prochazka. It's Alex Pereira. I have to go with the sport in the good form who is not going to recklessly take damage for the sake of taking damage. I'm going to go with Alex Pereira, and I think if this fight stays standing, I just think that he gets the job done, man. I don't want to go off of pure momentum, but I think that's the play right here, and I'm happy to pay that price at the current number, which is minus 150. So round us out here, brother.
Absolutely, Derek. And the point I want to hit on is what you're saying. Somebody who's not willing to just recklessly abandonment go into that danger. Pereira doesn't need to stay perfect. He just needs to land some shots, and then that's what's going to turn the tide. Whereas Jiri needs to avoid those shots. I like Pereira going into this one, and I'm with you. Minus 150 is a great price to pay for this fight.
All right, folks, that is your main event, Shaman experience and all.